This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A game. A made no rain from the track.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by God Oliva. How you doing, JD?
Busy week. Busy week. I've got a grad school teacher, online grad school teacher, that expects you to do work every day.
Oh,
right? Expects you to check in every day and do a little something every day and take quizzes. Like read the chapter and take a quiz. Like, dude, I'm a freaking adult. I'm a grown-up. I got 3 freaking jobs. And you only take a quiz? Fuck you. Like, I'm so over this. It's week 2. Week 2 of grad school.
So you started grad school and then got back to work basically like right at the same time.
I went to school. I went back to work for 2 weeks and then got back into grad school. I just got to make it through the end of the year. But this one teacher is really trying my patience because he has zero respect for anyone's professional time.
Well, that's tough, man. So before we get started into our show, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping as far as like the future of this podcast.
What are we talking about?
There's no news to break to you. It's something that we've talked about. So my kid's coming any day now.
Oh yeah.
so we think that baby's going to be born sooner rather than later. He's not due for another 6 weeks, but we have had a tumultuous time lately, and we think we might. Like probably in the next 2 weeks is what we're thinking. We don't know. It could be 6, but we're thinking like 2. And so once that happens, the live portion of this show, we might not be able to go live as often for a little bit. And that's really going to be the big difference. JD and I will still try to continue to crank out some content, but sometimes it might not be live and sometimes it might have to be audio only. Just depending, because I might not be able to do it. If you guys notice behind me, I have a diaper pail. And I have a shelf up there with diapers and Huggies wipes and butt cream and all that stuff. So this is I'm podcasting from my studio has been turned into a nursery, but I've been allowed by the wife to keep the desk and my computer in here. So if there might be some times where JD and I are just talking on the phone through the StreamYard app and knocking out some audio content. So I just wanted to prepare the audience for that. I did talk about it on Brace for Impact over the weekend, but I wanted to talk about it on this show too, because we might have some audio only. We might not have some live content for a little bit. But once the kid's born, I will have some time off. But because I'm in his bedroom, times may vary. So we'll see how that works out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. We have talked about that for a while. I can't believe it's almost here. Like, it feels like yesterday you told me that. That's wild how times fly. Yeah, man, life's gonna be different for you for a little bit, and we'll coordinate stuff, and we just we roll with the punches. What we do.
Yeah, I mean that we like 2 years ago I did have like a significant move where I moved from California to Hawaii, so we took a little bit of a hiatus, but then we had some guest hosts and things like that on the show, so we did do some of that stuff, but we've never really missed a significant amount of time. We've always cranked out the content.
You and I, like, you moved to Hawaii right around the same time that I became a teacher. I remember back when we were still with Fight Game, you and I had a conversation once. I said, yeah, I'm probably changing careers. And you're like, yeah, I might be moving to Hawaii. And we kind of thought the show might be coming to an end. Yeah. This is like 2+ years ago. We we're just like, nah, it didn't happen. And then we wound up here. It's just, we'll make it work. But, real life gets in the way sometimes.
Real life does get in the way sometimes, and real life has gotten in the way of AEW this week. Kevin Kelly, their former announcer for Collision, and I've seen some people drag his commentary skills online. I disagree with you guys. There's a reason why he was voted best commentator every year for a few years there, because of his work in New Japan. Maybe he didn't fit in AEW, but he wasn't a bad commentator. He definitely just didn't fit what they were looking for. and it ultimately didn't work out. He ended up getting fired. The Tate twins, who were the boys for what's that guy's name?
Dalton Castle.
Dalton Castle. The boys for Dalton Castle. They also got fired earlier this year. We've covered both stories, and I think you and I, just like looking at it, we were like, I think both of these firings are pretty reasonable. We thought, based on the information that we had, the reported information. Well, they didn't think so because they got together with Jim Cornette's lawyer, Stephen P. New, and have decided to file a lawsuit against AEW, Ring of Honor, and then specifically for Kevin Kelly, Ian Riccaboni for defamation for some stuff that Ian Riccaboni said on a specific Discord, which I will not name because I'm not trying to. I know it's out there, but so I don't want to drive any attention to that Discord, any negative unwanted attention, because I do frequent to that Discord.
Yeah.
So, whoops. But he's suing Ian Riccaboni for defamation, which is a very difficult thing to prove. But yeah, man, Stephen P. New, so I guess the biggest part of the lawsuit, and I think the one that I found to be most interesting, was the classification of independent contractors for pro wrestlers, challenging that, which as a principle, I agree with challenging that for not only AEW, but for WWE as well. And I think probably more egregiously, it's abused in WWE than it is AEW, because AEW allows their talent to have more freedom to take independent dates and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I think Stephen P. New just picked the wrong horses on this deal. I don't think they're going to really go anywhere with it.
No, I think this is just Jim Cornette trying to waste Tony Khan's time. Is really what this comes down to. Like, how does the Tate twins getting fired violate any terms of independent contractorship? I just don't see that. It seems like this really seems like a dartboard to me. And here's the reality: is companies get sued all the time. Like now, Ian Riccaboni, that might be something there. I don't know. Like there might. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, like, it just seemed like you can get fired for any time if you don't work in, like, if you don't fit into a corporate culture. Like wrongful termination is something very hard to, like, you have to prove like a malicious intent, I believe, to make that work. And like Tate twins weren't showing up for work.
Like, and they admitted as much. Now they dispute the reasons behind it. Because and look, again, we covered it, and I'm not going to go into all the intricate details of the suit itself, because JD, and you guys are going to find this hard to believe, but JD and I are stupid when it comes to the law. Like, we are not legal experts. If I had my wherewithal and I wasn't so busy at work, I would have contacted BJ Bethel, and so he can explain it to us. But if you guys want to get like an explanation and a deep dive into that, I think Brandon Thurston, I think he did a good job. I listened to his podcast.
He's smart.
With John Pollock. But we were looking at it at the time, and so did Jim Cornette. And this is the thing that really baffles me: is Stephen P. New is a sponsor of Jim Cornette's show. He's his lawyer. He's been affiliated with him. He's taken up all his arguments. Well, when the Tate twins got fired, Jim Cornette talked about it on his show. I listened to the YouTube clip whenever it came out because I was curious what he would say about it. And sure enough, he was shitting on the Tate twins for being unwilling to go 3 hours to an airport to make the town, right? Because they're lower and bottom of the card guys. He had Tony Khan's side on that deal. And for Stephen P. New to take that part of the case up, I think is telling, to be honest with you. But I'm not, obviously I don't want to get myself into a defamation thing, but it kind of looks like maybe these guys are all hoping for a settlement. Well, whether or not they get it, I have no idea. I don't know if they got a leg to stand on or not.
Isn't Stephen, not, maybe I'm wrong with this, but I thought, and I could be wrong, and I firmly, if I'm wrong, I'll take it, but I thought he was a personal injury attorney. I thought that was his big thing.
I don't know. So before Corny got whacked, like, and he's been kind of whacked for a long time, but I always found him to be funny whacked. Like, I like people to be crazy. Like, if you're going to be on the internet, you're going to say stupid stuff, just be a bit funny and crazy. So I liked him for a long time. I think he got way too out there, and you could tell that there was an agenda there with it, with what he was doing. It was just about, like, every episode became about taking down AEW and taking down Dave Meltzer. The same game plan that we're seeing from Eric Bischoff. Corny was ahead of the game on that deal. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I kind of had to disconnect myself. Now, when he when someone dies, I think Corny is a good resource to talk about it
Yeah.
from his era. I think he would be a good guy to listen to, but anything he's talking about modern wise, I don't really care. But plus he's like unreasonably mean with his stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's just way too overboard, which is kind of part of his persona. But
Well, that's what I mean. Is and that guy who does the artwork for them, he's like needlessly racist with a lot of his stuff.
yeah,
Like he's really kind of a rot. I'm not going to name names, 'cause I don't want to get in trouble, but he's really kind of a rotten person. Like there's a lot of bad vibe around the Cornette brand, right? Like for a while, and like it's so funny. The AEW launch really kind of put him into a bad space because he just didn't like the wrestling,
yeah,
and like it really kind of rallied a lot of the anti-modern wrestling fans. And I think there's one guy there who kind of just keeps poking the bear and making sure that everyone involved is miserable. Take for that which you will. I don't know, man. It seems like they want a settlement, which I get. They're gonna hire the guys who are gonna go after them, and it's I don't think this really will go anywhere.
yeah. So the movie that Kevin Kelly, they said that he supported the movie, but I think he was just retweeting about the movie. It was the Angel Studios movie about the child sex trafficking thing, which is a legitimate problem in the world, by the way. It's not a one-sided issue, but that is underneath one party, but it is very much a legitimate issue. And
however,
I think, go ahead.
I was saying, however, what that movie is about is not.
I'll be honest, I have not seen the movie. I have not seen it.
I haven't either, but it's from what I've read about it. It's very there's a lot of child sex trafficking in the world. It's a massive problem, especially in certain Southeast Asian countries specifically.
I've been through the training, right? I've been stationed in three Hawaii's not exactly Southeast Asia, but Japan and Korea. And then of course we do have an issue here in Hawaii too with that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through all the training. I know for a fact it exists, and it is a huge freaking problem. But it's not a democratic issue.
No, it's not, and it's not happening in like pizza parlors in Washington D.C. That's the problem is when people take real life problems and then they exacerbate them into like fantasy. So any real issue that could be brought up is immediately trounced because of like the method of attack. It's like the people that are doing this are also like propping up Andrew Tate. It's like what?
Weird. Right.
Like how
Who is
can
being
you
accused of the same stuff?
Right. It's like how can you be on like how is that possible? It becomes team sports, and Kevin Kelly played a little team sports on that. He really did.
The thing is, I think Kevin Kelly, he's saying that it wasn't a QAnon thing, and then I think he's pleading ignorance on that. And I think we gotta I think that is highly possible because I can tell you I am related to some people that supported that movie that don't know what QAnon even means. Right?
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but here's the problem though, is just because you don't know doesn't mean like it doesn't absolve you of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like if you blindly support something because it sounds great and it turns out it's run by rotten people, you by extension have supported rotten people. And like there has to be culpability at some point. Go, oh man, I messed up. I didn't know, my bad. Like you can't double down.
Yeah, I just think that no one's been able to prove that was like a QAnon production. I think that's the argument that's in the lawsuit, that was not a thing. That is a rumored thing, and that he, by supporting that movie, he was being connected to QAnon, which he's saying he's not a QAnon guy. I think that's kind of what they're talking about in the lawsuit.
And was he specifically fired for being a QAnon guy, or was he specifically let go because he didn't? Because that's the thing is like, did Tony Khan say I'm firing you because you believe in QAnon, or am I firing you because you're just not fitting in the commentary?
I think he's firing because he was all over Twitter complaining about his treatment and not having a spot, right? And I thought one thing in the lawsuit that I found hilarious was that they cited the fact that, look, there's typos in the thing, and they had some stuff that was just factually inaccurate about Ring of Honor, the amount of dates they didn't fill it out. I don't think any of that stuff matters. I don't think that's indicative of the lawsuit. What I found hilarious was that they cited the fact that Sting's final match in Greensboro was happening, and no one called Kevin Kelly to commentate on it. Like he cited that, like that's cited in the lawsuit. That is wild. He absolutely, well, from what we're here, like from what people are saying, we don't know anything. we don't have any insight. We're just like reading the reports and all that stuff. He was fired over behavioral issues with what he was saying on Twitter. And I think, King of the North said, I think he was fired because of that voicemail he left. What he said is unknown. Yeah, he had a really bad conversation with somebody from talent relations, and that didn't go very well. Next thing you know, he's fired.
That's why this stuff's not going to last. Like in a corporate environment, you can't leave not nasty messages. Now, again, is he going to sue? Yeah, my humble idiot opinion. I'll be first to admit that I'm a moron. I think they're probably just looking for some settlement money.
Yeah.
You know?
And look, those things can be successful, right? like that can be a successful strategy.
WCW. What's the thing? Okay, this thing is like, is AEW WCW? AEW or WCW like settled almost every lawsuit that was ever filed with them. Will Tony Khan as a privately owned company settle every lawsuit that comes their way? There haven't been many that have been reported. I
don't know of any that have been reported.
There have to be a couple. Like they're 5-year-old companies. Someone has to have sued them at something for some point, right?
Yeah.
Law of averages.
Yeah. Here's the problem. Here's the dilemma that he's going to face. He could very easily pay this off and settle quickly to make it go away. That way he's not annoyed by it. But if he does, he could open himself up to more lawsuits that are similar, right? And or if he completely ignores it and like lets the lawyers handle it, the discovery could open up. And sometimes people with a lot of money don't like discovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't like it would open up all their business records. They might not want that out there. Not that they're hiding things, but look, these billionaires don't like that stuff, right? And they also could open themselves up to this getting a lot bigger and becoming more of a class action lawsuit where more people get jump in on it, and some other folks that maybe have gotten fired. So I think what they're suing for is the rest of their contract, what they would be owed if they were to fulfill their contract, because their contracts were terminated early, and so that's what they're asking for, is what it looks like.
We'll see. I mean, like, I'm super curious to see what kind of lawyers Tony has on here. Like, I don't know. I kind of got to feel like a billionaire is going to have access to better lawyers than Stephen P. Maybe I'm being a jerk on that. I don't mean to be, but the whole thing feels very frivolous. And it might be something we would ignore if not for Jim Cornette's involvement.
Yeah, here's the thing. I really do want like a legit attorney out there. Not that Stephen P. is not legit. I think he's a very real attorney. Right? I think that's clear. He's got money, right? He's been sponsoring all these folks, and I think he's actually done a lot for certain AEW talents. I think wasn't there a rumor that he was CM Punk's lawyer at one point too? I don't know if that's true or not. But what I want is for somebody like a real legit attorney, like a big time attorney, to challenge not only AEW but challenge WWE on this independent contractor stuff, because those wrestlers are very much employees and should be treated as such. I know that would flip the business upside down, but I do think that it's important that we get to that point at some point.
I agree with you, but the problem is with the Tate, as a guy who spent 20 years working as an independent contractor, if I got hired to do a job and I didn't show up for the job, I was fired from the job. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really not like
I want them to take on
a contractor.
I want them to take on a legitimate case. Just from what I've read in the last 2 days and the podcast that I've heard, it just doesn't appear to be a legitimate case. Like I just don't think they got a gripe, right?
No, I'm kind of with you, and I agree. There's been a lot of stuff with the WWE that I thought that could challenge the independent contractor stuff over the years. Nothing egregious on Tony's side of things seems to have popped, but if it ever does, hey man, you do what you got to do. These guys are independent. If they're independent contractors, they need to be treated as such. They should be able to bounce around. They should be able to show up when they want. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should be acting like an independent contractor. Or if they're employees, give them insurance. Do what need to be done. Like, we don't
401k.
Yep, 401ks, retirement benefits. Like, do something legit. So I'd like to see it. Again, it's like whenever this comes up, it's always like, this is the guy that's gonna challenge this. It never feels legit, and it quite frankly never is.
Yeah. No, I feel you. All right, before we get into the next topic, let's go ahead and get to the chat. King of the North says, just wanted to check on Mike after Wendy Chu left a pillow in the ring on TNA. Did that happen?
Oh God.
I have not watched TNA. I was when I was at work, I had football on in the background, so I didn't watch TNA. And then said he wants to give JD his props for putting that Scottish dipshit in the dirt. Who is that? Drew?
Oh, no,
Joe Hendry?
no. I like Joe. No,
Yeah.
Corey Brennan said something
Oh.
stupid, and I actually misinterpreted what he said. So I took the chance to just go ham on the Fightful people like I always do.
Is
And I
he
read it,
from
I'm like,
Scotland? I thought he's from Ireland.
Ireland, but I'll take the
Oh.
Scottish, like, you know.
King of the North might be being racist a little bit.
Canadians, man.
Yeah. Which is now you're being.
I know that was the joke. Like, I don't know. Like, I probably was wrong in this case, but that guy has bent over backwards to cover Vince McMahon and WWE and make them sound rosy keen all the time, because Fightful is owned by Jimmy Van. Jimmy, thank you, Vince Van, and I don't like that outlet, and I will bury anyone from it who says something stupid when given it, even if maybe they aren't 100% wrong sometimes. So, you know.
Yeah. Nathan says, I looked at Pennsylvania law for defamation. There's no way they get Ian based on what I read. I'm going to take your word for it because I'm not reading up on Pennsylvania law.
Frivolous lawsuits are a thing that happens. It just, whatever.
If they could somehow connect the Discord post to him being fired, they might be able to get some. I just don't think they can. I'm going to be interested in how this plays out. I am very curious.
It's never going to go to court. It's going to get thrown out or settled. Probably thrown out.
Yeah. King says Mike likes crazy people like himself. So, guys, I grew up listening to Howard Stern and George Carlin and Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Sam Kinison, Andrew Dice Clay. You could tell that my sense of humor is a bit mean sometimes. And so I typically, like, when people are getting offended by certain things that people are saying, I'm usually not the one. But I'm like empathetic to the people that are being offended by that. But I'm just like, stuff just doesn't bother me, because I'm like, I've been listening to that shit since I'm like 8 years old, right? Like you remember those Columbia House deals?
Oh yeah,
the 10 CDs for like $1.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I got my uncle to fill one out for me, and I was getting like stand-up comedy CDs, and I was getting like gangster rap. And so from an early age, I was being groomed and conditioned to be kind of just a giant flaming asshole when I'm 41. So if you guys see me and my tweets are a bit stiff and a bit mean, I was conditioned at a young age to be that way.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Let's see. The letter A says, Coquette rants are like Rush Limbaugh, despite him hating right wing.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. It's weird. All right, look, we got crazy people on both sides of the aisle, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. All right, let's see. IO Productions. I think this is a good thing that we can kind of talk about. Looking forward to this Vince Netflix after that trailer. Did you see the trailer?
I did not actually see.
Yeah, I watched the trailer. It looks like it's going to be very well produced and filmed.
Yeah,
the big budget. They have Vince in the trailer. They actually cover the Janelle Grant case, but the top journalist that they chose to speak about the case, according to the trailer, is David Shoemaker from The Ringer, the bald guy.
Of course it is. The guy who does the WWE podcast with Bill Simmons. Of course, that's the guy that they
I was like,
this fucking company, man. God damn it. Fuck Netflix too. Just what we need, another fucking puff piece. Like,
dude, I was, and he wasn't being nice to Vince, right? I will say that. But once I started to see it, I was like, okay, they're actually covering it. I was thinking maybe it'd be a blip on the radar, but I didn't think that they would be advertising it in the trailer, and they did advertise in the trailer, so I got encouraged. And then I saw the bald dude, and I was like, bro, this guy's a clown. He is not a journalist. He is not a reporter. He is not a WWE. He is a historian. He is just he's a fan. And look, I get it. He's friends with Bill Simmons, and he has a podcast on The Ringer, so they treat him like he's a somebody. But this guy doesn't have the knowledge base to be speaking on. He really just doesn't, and he doesn't have the integrity, right? Because he's not going to go all in on WWE. He just isn't.
No, I mean, I am of the mind that we're probably not going to hear anything about Ashley Massaro or Mel Phillips or Terry Garvin or any of these guys that, the real black eyes from this company over the years. I just don't think so. I think that I read Ringmaster, the book, last year. It was all right. There's a lot of stuff in Vince's life that I can get why you'd want to make a documentary on him. But I mean, like, I just don't trust WWE's partner. on this. I don't trust Nick Khan. I don't trust any of these guys. I don't think you're going to get a truly fair portrait. It's going to be like Evan Husney and those, dark side guys who sold out to make Eric Bischoff happy for reasons.
So to have a truly fair representation of him and tell his story, you do have to say the good things. Like you do. Like there are good things. And I know that sucks to hear, but that like people are complicated. And he is probably the most complicated individual, him and Benoit. It's like those two, right? I think you have to tell the good side. You have to have that side. But you also have to have the people who are independent of that company, or it does not have their clause, the WWE clause in them, or not dependent on WWE giving them access to be able to speak freely and intelligently on the situation. That's why we have an independent press corps, right? That's why we need it. That's why we need Dave Meltzer. That's why we need John Pollock and Brandon Thurston.
Now, I get you not wanting to talk to Dave because Dave has been adversarial with the company for a long time. And there's a bunch of people that see Dave's name and immediately shut out because of the narrative surrounding Dave more than Dave himself. But there's no reason Brandon Thurston or John Pollock aren't part of this. Like a real reporter.
Or BJ.
Or BJ would be a good one too. So that's the problem right now is we have too many guys coming up in this business who want to play games like Fightful, right? They just want to play patty cake with the companies. They don't want to actually cover them. And like Sean will say, I'm not a journalist. I'm like, you guys do a lot of journalism over there for not being journalists.
Yeah. SmackDown plans are not journalism.
No.
It's just you getting people hyped for SmackDown an hour before the show is on the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's not journalism. That's PR. That's all that is. And look, they're very successful, and I think Sean does a good job with contract information, free agency, that type of stuff, and getting some details that some of us don't get. But I think the rest of them, it's just
they don't cover. They don't cover them hard. They don't cover them hard. They don't. They refuse to They refuse to be tough. Like, well, our audience doesn't want that, and it's like, well, fuck off. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, it just. When Dave's done, it's a sad day. It's a real sad day when Dave walks away. It's all it's left is Pollock and Thurston.
Yeah, I think Pollock and Thurston, they do such a really good job, and specifically Brandon Thurston because he has been called a shill for AEW. He's been called a shill for WWE, and he's been called a hater of both companies, which tells me he's doing a very good job.
Absolutely.
And earlier this week, it was reported, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but he actually got the turnstile count for All In and reported the number. And it was, I think it was like 48,000, something like that, 48,000, right? The turnstile count. He didn't put any context. He explained what the turnstile count means, but he just counted, right? He got the count and reported it. And AEW fans went ape shit on that guy, just like they did last year. He's fake news. He's lying. He's WWE. He's this. He's that. It's weird because wrestling fans, specifically in America, they love counting. They love to count to 10 in the ring. They love to count to 3. They love counting backwards from 10. But if you count how many people in the crowd, they get fucking obscene about it. It's wild.
It's because you can't go over 10.
Yeah. Yeah. So they can't comprehend anything over 10 sometimes.
When the number goes over 10, then all of a sudden it's like, number does not compute. Yeah, the wrestling fan. I mean, team sports again, they're stupid. I'm so over the attendance conversations in general, and this is why I've kind of been off Twitter lately, because it's just I'm so tired of the same arguments and the same conversations and the tribalism, and it just freaking sucks, man. Wrestling Twitter used to be a lot of fun. And it's in a lot of wrestling right now. It's just not a fun place to be.
We used to have really good conversations on wrestling Twitter. I thought anyway. I've met some really cool people that I feel like I'm good friends with to this day through that. But man, it does get to be a little bit embarrassing sometimes. Hold on, as Io brought this up, and I just wanted to play this. Hold on. Here's my president.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes.
All right, sorry.
Good. That's a good one. It's
Yeah,
good.
not to get political. I need to have that as an audio drop. I gotta do that.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one because it is. I get so tired of litigating. I mean, yeah, should AEW be selling more tickets? Yes. Is their booking better than it was 6-7 months ago? Yes. Is it turned around? No. Is it going to? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I can't litigate the same points every freaking week.
It gets to be repetitive.
Totally.
Yeah.
I do. I find it boring. I find the whole attendance conversation to be boring at this point. I really do.
I especially, and I think King of the North in the chat has a good point. A non-WWE company had a 46,000 turnstile count for a show, and it's bad nowadays.
He's right.
It's one of the top 5. Like right now, it's probably behind the 2 days at WrestleMania and SummerSlam. It's probably going to be number 4 or 5 by the end of the year. That's pretty damn good.
Failure.
Yeah.
An absolute failure. I mean, like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, I just, they did a good job. They did good business 2 years in a row. Did they sell as much as, I mean, they never were going to. WWF or WWE, excuse me, hasn't ran Wembley since SummerSlam 92.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, it was ballsy to run it a second time.
Right. Well, yeah. I think hopefully, like, I think that's the big lesson for Tony Khan is you probably shouldn't have done that. No. You probably should have waited. Like do like the Olympics, just like every 4 years or something like that. You probably didn't need to go back to back on that.
I hope they got that Australia show coming up. That should be a lot of fun. I don't know what they'll do for that business in Australia. I mean, like, you can travel to the UK from the US. That's like reasonable. I don't know if people are traveling to Australia, to go to a stadium show there. That's going to be a thing.
Yeah, the WWE shows have been pretty big there that they've done their stadium shows.
WWE though, like, I mean, like, I'm just being realistic. Like, I don't know what kind of a foothold AEW. I know I used to listen to an Australian AEW review show, but I mean, like, I don't know what kind of a foothold they have down there. It's interesting to me. I hope it works. I don't know.
Yeah,
I literally don't know.
I'm gonna get to this comment and then we're gonna move on from the topic. John Muse, buddy John Muse says we're gonna be hurt badly in the analysis and the history aspect when Dave walks away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I kind of want Dave to be the old school Dave, where right now I think he's rating matches based on how they get over versus based on what he likes, and I want him to rate what he likes.
Yeah,
if we can get that message to him, like I know, like he's legit given 5-star matches to matches he says he hated. Like, no, just say you hate it and then give it a star rating that reflects that. Like, if the show sucks, say it sucks. Don't say that it got over. Like, you could say both things.
I mean, that's the old Dave just would do that. Like, this version of Dave is so focused on what the numbers tell him.
Yeah.
It's like, just because something makes a lot doesn't mean it's good. Like, at no point, like, Titanic was a terrible movie. Like, but I mean, it made a lot of money. Avatar is not a great movie, but it made a lot of money. They don't, I don't like this is why I don't really like this kind of side of things. I don't understand why we need to do that, to be honest with you. Like, if you didn't like the match, just say I didn't like the match. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. All righty. Let's move on. Man, what did you think of the closing angle of Dynamite this week?
I loved it.
Burning the house.
I absolutely loved it. I like how it bookended the character. Man, I really like the Swerve Hangman feud for the last year. Like, I really like how they've kind of flopped spots right now. But I mean, like, this Swerve kind of getting his comeuppance, like, he was Swerve did everything rotten to get to that world title. And then, like a nice Greek tragedy, he kind of gets what he deserves in a way, but in a way that nobody comes out of this whole thing looking good. Like, it's not like Hangman feels self-righteous, but you don't light a man's house on fire. Like, it's really good TV, to be quite honest with you. I really enjoyed that angle. I thought it was, because I had a spoiler, I thought it was going to be like when Randy Orton did that thing to Bray Wyatt, but it wasn't. No. Like, it felt different. It felt like it had stakes. And I think Hangman Page is an underrated promo. Like, especially in this version of his character. Like, he is overly verbose and a little much, but I think that's what the character is supposed to be at this point. Yeah. Like, I was really happy with it. What'd you think?
I loved it. And I also, part of the reason why I loved it is because he started the promo by shitting on ceremonial contract signings. So of course I made the joke because if you do a contract signing in the ring, no matter what the company, I'm making fun of it because it's stupid.
They're done. Overdone.
Yeah, especially just a couple of days before the actual pay-per-view. So I made the jokes like, well, hey, look, he chose to burn down a house instead of sign the contract. So is the match really happening? Because I can't, I don't know. I can't, like, I think we have to put it in like the Jeopardy column. Like it could be in Jeopardy. But Tony Khan on his call today said that he spent all night keeping a Hangman in a jail for arson. So
Schrodinger's match. It will and won't happen at the same time.
Yeah, but no, I thought it was man, one of the best closing angles to a wrestling TV show that I've ever seen, to be honest with you. I know that it's absurd.
Yes.
And we have to suspend disbelief.
Yes.
And sometimes that can be difficult for me. And I think I don't want to, but if it's awesome, I can't not. Like, I know it's not legit. I know he's not going to go to prison. And I know they're not really going to explain it very well. But because it was awesome, I'm going to give them a pass because Hangman was sitting there with a glass of whiskey, setting a motherfucker's childhood home on fire. How could that not be anything but awesome?
A guy who broke into his house, right, a year ago, who everybody, and Hangman is like the most justified heel in wrestling since like Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Like how can you people cheer this guy? Look what he did to me. I hate him. Right.
Yeah.
Just like he's
so total babyface.
But he's not though.
Like, I know he's got a reasonable gripe.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. That's what makes him a good heel. That's what makes him a believable villain. Like those are some of the best villains, the ones that think they're right. And it's when you think about it, you're like, they are kind of right. But Swerve kind of thing is like, man, I did so many bad things to get the title. I had so many bad things to get the title. And then seeing a bad thing turn back on you and him just being helpless to realize like I made this bed and now I got to sleep in it. It's really good TV, man. I was really happy with it.
Yeah. I thought the whole, I thought the go home show was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I'm kind of over how many times Kyle Fletcher's getting beaten. Like I know they're going to do something with the guy eventually, but I'm like, I feel like I'm like 1998 me, like, 15 years old watching WCW, and I'm kind of sick of the olds, right? So I'm like these 50-year-old dudes that are on top. I'm ready for these young cats to break through, and we saw it with Swerve recently. Now I'm ready for Kyle Fletcher to break through.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Garcia's getting a shot, Yeah. No, it's good. Kyle Fletcher's got a ton of talent. He's still a kid, but at some point he's got to start beating people.
Yeah. We saw it happen with Swerve, and I was pretty impatient with that too. And if you guys think I'm going to learn my lesson, I am not. I'm going to be impatient about Kyle Fletcher too. I'm going to fucking ring that bell until it happens.
Clearly you don't listen to the show if that's what you
think. Yeah. But so we got All Out coming up. Let's go ahead and get a little bit of a preview of that. So I mean, the main event has to be Swerve versus Hangman inside a cage. I think they said that it's going to be a lights out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of that match, and who do you see going over in that one?
I think I'm going to have a great time in the arena. That's what I think. My kid has asked if he could borrow my phone during that match because the blood makes him a little uncomfortable. And he's like, he looked at me and goes, they're both going to bleed a lot. And I said, you're right, bud. You're right. Yeah. I'll give you my phone in that match. I don't see Swerve going up 3-0.
I don't either. I think that's the dilemma. So I've seen the argument both ways, which means like they have a good problem on their hands, right? Because I've seen the argument both ways. Swerve goes up 3-0 and then Hangman devolves more into madness. But I'm like, and then that makes him more interesting. I'm like, I don't know how more mad he can get, guys. Like,
right.
Like
he he's
pretty fucking furious right now.
I think Hangman needs to a little bit of rebuild. I think we need to see Hangman got to win something at some point again. And Swerve just lost the title. He can lose here because he's kind of down and out. And I think the move here is putting the belt on giving the win to Hangman and letting the feud just stay on simmer. Like it's still hot. It's still the best thing in the company.
I would say over the summer, I felt like the women were carrying the company a little bit with their TV feuds. And for both titles, I thought were both very good. Now the Britt Baker and the Mercedes Moné one, I didn't think ended up very well.
Did that not deliver at the end?
I think they missed the mark on that, and we have not seen Britt since then. I think that's interesting. I don't know if that means anything, but I think that's interesting.
Well, here she's open to these kind of things.
Yeah, but now I think that the main story. Look, Hangman has been the main character in AEW for ever now. It seems like
Since its inception. Remember the very first. I heard Joe and Rich talking about this in the flagship this week. The very first presser from AEW was like to announce Hangman as kind of the guy, and him and Pac had that big square off. Remember, the show is called Full Gear. The pay-per-view is called Full Gear because Pac showed up with his full gear on, and that joke was that Hangman was getting fat on being the elite, and they do so. I mean, like, Hangman is kind of the lifeblood of this promotion, and the fact that he's been passed over and he's like going crazy about it when he didn't do anything wrong makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Hold on, I might have to kick King of the North out of the chat. He says Britt is getting traded to TNA from Masha Slamovich. Stop that. We're not taking the dentist. You can't have Masha until, of course, her contract expires next year and she signs there.
Yeah, that's probably gonna happen. So I think the match is gonna rule. They have amazing the two of them have absolutely amazing chemistry. Whether it's like just a talking segment or in the ring, like these two, they're meant to do this forever. Like they are Batman and the Joker of AEW, which I have no idea. Like,
so Swerve compared him to he made the comparison. He himself said this on Twitter. Well, he didn't say it. He just posted side-by-side photos of Stone Cold and The Rock and then him and Hangman. I'm going to correct him on that.
Oh, go for
it. I think it's more Stone Cold and Brett.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I see it, and I will fight this to the death. That was a much better. It didn't draw the same money that Stone Cold and The Rock did.
Better feud.
Because The Rock is a much bigger star. But as far as like just stories and angles and promos and heat, like the heat between those two is off the charts. And then, of course, the matches. So I would say I like comparing it to Stone Cold and Brett. And that is a pretty fucking high compliment for me as a guy who has a t-shirt of Stone Cold and Brett on it.
It's probably the greatest WWE match in history. I'll still maintain that. I don't think there's a better top to bottom match as far as work and storytelling and like, just resonance. Like it's still the best WWE match ever. I agree with you. I think there was a time I would have said Kenny Omega, John Moxley feud is the lifeblood of this promotion. It is the program that's kind of, you can always go back to, and there's just that history. I quickly think Hangman Swerve has become the next one.
Yeah.
Like it's reaching, like, for this company, epic levels of like what it means to the company.
Yeah. Next up we got Bryan Danielson versus Jack Perry in the co-main. I'm gonna call it the co-main event because I just don't see Jack Perry as a main eventer, and I know that upsets people, but I just don't think the kid has it at that level. But Bryan Danielson's the greatest ever. So
Jack come a long way this year.
He did. He's improved.
Yeah,
he did.
Like just the whole package, top to bottom. Do I think he's improved enough to be the champion to knock off Bryan Danielson 2 weeks after winning the belt? I do not.
No. Wait, you don't think that he's going to be the guy to retire, Bryan Danielson?
I do not. I do not see that coming quite yet. No.
Yeah, but look, Jack Perry kicks out of shit. He does moves. The match is going to be great, and then Bryan Danielson's one of the greatest ever. So, like, they're going to pull off a really good match. So it's going to be fun. It's
going to be great.
Yeah. Next up, which I think could be like sleeper match of the night, Will Ospreay versus Pac for the. I keep wanting to call it the Intercontinental title, but it's the International title.
Formerly known as the American title. This is your work rate sicko nerd match, and I can't think of a better one they could have given us. I can't tell you how excited I am for this match.
Yeah, it's gonna tear the house down. But I love Pac. He's been losing a lot, which sometimes, like, if a guy's been losing a lot, it makes me think that they might get him a win here, but I don't think so. I think Will's got to take the victory here.
He just got the belt back.
Yeah. And then we got, which I think they've been doing a really good job of making this feud interesting, MJF and Daniel Garcia. Garcia, whom I assume is signed here. There's not been an announcement, but I'm sure he's re-signed. Yeah, but looks like it's gonna look. I think they're gonna have a pretty good match.
I don't know what you're gonna do because I mean, like, I feel like if Garcia loses, he's done.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, and that the move would be to put him over MJF, but I don't know if Max's ego lets that happen. I mean, like, I think we're kind of buying into the narratives of MJF a lot of the time. But I do have a hard time seeing him losing to Daniel Garcia in this one. Hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, me and Garcia got beef after that promo on Wednesday where he made fun of MJF for going to Turkey and getting hair plugs, and which immediately made me stop Googling how to get hair plugs in Turkey. So I was like, that's very offensive to me. So
No comment.
But yeah, I think this one's hard to call. I think the right move would be to put Daniel Garcia over if you're trying to build a guy. But I just don't know if MJF goes back-to-back pay-per-views with a loss. I just don't think they do it.
I mean, we're asking a lot for this pay-per-view as opposed to letting newer guys win over established guys. That just typically isn't how we see things in pro wrestling in general.
Yeah.
I'm gonna referee. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to. I lost my train of thought, Mike. Continue.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. I feel like I thought this feud was about over, but it just keeps going.
They have good chemistry. I do think we could kind of. I mean, like, is the title on the line? Is that a CMLL title on the line? It's just she's just going to be the champion and have a street fight, basically.
Yeah, they're just having a match apparently because I don't know. There might be political things with the CMLL title.
I could see it. Well, you know, CMLL values their titles. It should be fun. I like Willow. I think that Chicago crowd's going to eat her up. I think this should be the end of this feud, right?
Yeah.
But one more time. That's the problem with this show is they had to throw something together, right? Because you spend all summer promoting Wembley, and then Chicago gets table scraps because we just can't. We have to have these two shows so close together. It's whatever. It'll be a good match.
Hey, Chicago, I think you guys got pretty fucking good table scraps with that cage match, and Pac versus Ospreay.
Well, I'll tell you this: we used to get 10,000 plus at the Now Arena. Now we're gonna be lucky to get 7,500. So we'll see what happens again.
Yeah. Tag team championships: the Young Bucks versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Wheeler Yuta and Claudio. The Blackpool Combat Club just got the trios title, and now they're already gonna have them lose for a tag. Like Young Bucks got to keep the belts here. I don't see any reason why they would lose.
Wheeler Yuta getting pinned for sure.
Yeah. But of course, it's probably going to be a good match. I just don't find it to be interesting, to be honest with you. I have lost a lot of interest in the Young Bucks over the summer.
I can't tell you how little I care for the Young Bucks right now. Every time they're on the show, it just completely grinds it to a halt. Their characters are off-putting. They're not interesting anymore. Like, they don't have to be baby faces to be interesting. They can be effective heels. But these characters are not effective heels, and I'm bored with the whole thing.
Yeah. King of the North says Willow versus Chris is an ODQ match, and CMLL stopped it from being a title match because they don't do gimmick matches for belts. You know what? Good for you, CMLL. Be Sam Mushnick. I like that. Like, stick to your guns there.
Let's not go crazy here. Like, they don't book their time. I mean, like, CML titles are really just kind of there. So
yeah,
hardly Sam Mushnick, but I agree with you.
Yeah. Kazuchika Okada looks like he's defending his Continental Championship against 3 unknown assailants. Mystery people.
The King's Knights is going to be Jeff Gaylord and Greg Valentine.
But not Terry Funk, for sure.
Not Terry Funk, for sure. I think Jeff Gaylord might be dead, too. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, that joke just got a little darker.
Yeah, I didn't realize until after I made it, actually. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. We don't know who's in the match, do we?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, he's... Other than saying the B word and having decent matches on television, I don't know what the hell Okada's got going on.
Getting paid, that's what he's got going on.
I'd like to see him in a feud with somebody that's meaningful. That'd be nice.
They seem to be going with him and Takeshita, so I assume Takeshita's going to get in this match too. I would like to see an Okada Takeshita feud, like a legitimate feud for the next 6 months. That'd be cool.
Yeah, me too. And then lastly, but not least, we got Mercedes Moné defeating Hikaru Shida. Clean as a sheet in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure the match will be fine. 2 pretty good workers there, but nothing really interesting about it, to be honest with you.
Nope.
Let me get to the chat here, and then we're gonna go ahead and go home on this deal. Nathan says, all right, hold on. King of the North says MJF losing 2 pay-per-views in a row would be interesting. Yeah.
Agreed.
And then Nathan said, let MJF win the first one, Daniel wins the blow-off later. I think that's probably the way they go.
Could be.
Nathan with a hot take says this card is way better than Wembley. I don't know about that one. I thought the closer for Wembley.
Pretty awesome.
But I do think the top of this card is pretty damn good.
Agreed.
But the rest of it, they're going to have good matches, but I don't care about any of those matches. And I see just as good or better matches every week on TV. So I'm not really clamoring to see them on this pay-per-view. That doesn't mean I won't enjoy them.
No argument.
Dobby says that the opponents are determined on Collision. Hey, Dobby, if you're still here, was Collision taped already?
No, Collision's live tomorrow.
Oh, it is? Okay, probably from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll find out. But yeah, All Out coming up this weekend. JD will be in the house on when is it? Saturday night. JD, are you going to Collision too or no?
No, actually, Andy and I got tickets to a independent Lucha Libre show at a like a little festival in our hometown.
Nice.
He's
convinced Gringo Loco.
Oh yeah, if Gringo Loco's there, I'll be happy. I don't recognize anybody that they've announced that's going to be there. Andy is convinced Mystico is going to show up, and I keep telling him Mystico is not going to be at this little park in Genoa, Illinois, on a Friday night when he should be in Arena, Mexico. And he looks at me and goes, "But he could be."
He's got a point.
And I'm like, "Oh my god, my kid just sets himself up for disappointment."
Hey, can you just buy a Mystico match and tell one of those fuckers to put it on for your kid and take a picture? Come on.
I know Mystico match. Those things are expensive.
Yeah. But hey guys, I know we cut it a little bit short tonight, but we do got to get going. I thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for being subscribers. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you're a subscriber and throw down a comment. Tell us what you think. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. And then, of course, as always, please head over to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show. I will be back this weekend discussing TNA news. They are. I laid down the gauntlet to Gail Kim earlier this week. Called her out specifically on social media. I've called her out on podcasts, but I finally made it public on social media. Said we need to start putting pressure on TNA to sign some knockouts. And sure enough, they answered my challenge. And I'm gonna go ahead. I don't have any evidence that I was the one that got this done, but that's not going to stop me from taking all the credit. So this weekend, I will take credit for TNA improving their knockouts roster tonight with 2 new signings. So we'll be discussing that and more coming up this weekend. That's going to do it for us, everybody. Thank you for being here. And until next time, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I hope you work your A game. 8 men, no lanes on the track when we unite and spit. This is